We open this scene at St. John's, Quebec, Canada, where this majestic machine that came to us by way of Debbie was born sometime back in 1948 to 1954, because that's the best we can do with the serial number tracking from that particular factory in Canada. The serial number on this machine, if you want to try to look it up, is J as in Juliet, C as in Charlie, 753744. And what you'll find is they have brackets of manufacturing for the machines from this particular factory from Canada. I'm going to cut this music. They have brackets. And so at the Canadian factory, again at St. John's in Quebec, Canada, which opened right around, 1906. And they ran production at that factory at St. John's in Quebec, Canada, right around from there's debate, 1904, 1906, and they actually operated until around 1986. So that's a good long run that they were making machines in Canada, like this one you see in front of you right now. And again, this machine has that serial number series of JC, which ran from 1948 to 1954. They don't narrow it down more than that, so this machine could have been made anywhere between 1948 and 1954. My best guess, based on the serial number starting in the 753 series and ending in the 744 series, is it's probably like around 1952. Right around in the middle of that cluster. And they had a bunch of other serial number clusters as well, if you happen to have a Canadian made Singer 1591 similar to this. The first series was JA, Juliet Apple, and that ran from 1924 until 1936. Then they had JB, Juliet Bravo, from 1936 to 1948. I've already told you about the JC series, which is what this machine falls in. And then they had two other series after this. The JD series, Juliet David, that ran from 1954 to 1961. And then finally, the last series that was made at the factory at St. John's in Quebec, Canada, which was the JE, Juliet Echo, that started in 1961, and they're not really sure when it ended. So there's a lot of mystery when it comes to the Canadian production, and it's not all the Canadians' fault. They had a lot of machines that were being brought into their factories from over in Kilbowie, Scotland. The machines would start in production over in Kilbowie, Scotland, and then they would be brought over to Canadian territory, and they would finish them up over there. And that's part of the reason that there was a little bit of confusion as well on serial numbers. And part of what I was able to find is in the latter part, the assembled machines that were imported from Kilbowie factory in Scotland were finished off at St. John's, and they were assigned badges and were given serial numbers until around 1924. The serial numbers for the machines made in Canada were issued not by Canadians. They were issued by the Elizabethport factory in New Jersey. So they were just all over the board. They had machines coming in from Kilbowie, Scotland, being finished in Canada. They had serial numbers that were being pumped into Canada from New Jersey that were being assigned to the finished Canadian machines. Talk about trying to find which end is up. So again, the best I can do for Debbie's Canadian-made Singer 1591 is that based on the bracket that they gave us, again, from 1948 to 1954. This is about a 1952 machine. Now let's go back to why it's here. Debbie jumped in the car with her daughter and her daughter's friend last summer, and they drove all the way from Pennsylvania to Wisconsin. You can Google the distance, it's not around the block. And they came in with this Singer 1591 that was Canadian made, along with 4 other machines. And the note that I found with this machine was it had just been serviced out in Pennsylvania, that when it came back to Debbie, who was really, anticipating some good things, it worked very briefly, and then all of a sudden it started having major problems with stitch output. Skip stitches, inconsistent stitches, just a mess. And I think I know why. Now, I'm joking with you. I absolutely know why. It's because whoever had their little fingers on this machine, and if you didn't see it come into the shot yet, yep, I've got my Canadian hat out too, with a beautiful little maple leaf. I'm not going to wear it, but here it is. I'll throw it to the side. So, what I can tell you is that these are parts of the upper tension control that, as I disassembled it, I found had been modified. Some of the parts had been ground down as much as 2 millimeters. Other parts had been bent or contorted. And then on top of that, even if that had not been the problem, the upper tension was also assembled incorrectly as well. So I don't know if that happened in the shop that Debbie took the machine to out in Pennsylvania, or if it happened some other way, but that was a big part of the stitch output issues and the skip stitches that this machine was experiencing, along with the feed dogs had to be adjusted. They were too low and the hook timing was off slightly. So just a combination of different things that resulted in a not happy Canadian made Singer 1591. Not happy in the least, not even slightly happy. So, along with that, I found bare wires. I found some major motor issues that had to be resolved as well, that were causing the machine to really lack a lot of power. Not a problem anymore. And the long and short of it is, oh, I forgot to mention, also a few wiring issues as well. That's the original wiring that was supplying the foot controller. Yeah, it's pretty nasty looking, isn't it? So this machine actually came in when Debbie dropped it off along with the other 4 machines for a straightforward service. It needed a lot more than that. So I will work with her on talking about the additional things that I had to do, and we'll work that out. We have plenty of time to do that with, because I have 4 more machines to work on as well that she was gracious enough to bring to the workshop. So let's focus on, we focused a little bit on the past of where this machine was at, and you've seen the pictures posted on Facebook. It was just a cruddy, dirty, filthy, yucky machine. It doesn't matter how much machine shines on the outside, that never distracts me too long. I'm not like a crow looking at a shiny object. I look at the outside of the machine and I go, okay, somebody polished it, but that doesn't at all dictate what you're going to find once you get underneath the surface. And this machine had been grossly neglected, and as I say all the time, the service locations across the country, these are good people trying to make a living that are out there servicing machines, but many of them now are focused on migrating towards not servicing vintage machines, but servicing, I'm trying to get the shot here, they're trying to sell you newer machines. That's really their motivation. And so when it comes to servicing a vintage machine like Debbie's that comes into the workshop, they can only devote so much time to that. As I've said before, probably about 30 to 45 minutes is about average. and then they write you out a bill for anywhere from 100 to 150 bucks, and you're out the door. I don't know what they did for Debbie's machine when she had it in for service, but they certainly didn't resolve the problem. They certainly didn't do any deep cleaning on it. They certainly didn't resolve the wiring issues. They certainly may have done something grossly incorrect to the upper tension, and the list goes on of things that I would consider missed opportunities. Again, go to one of those shops, 45 minutes, send your machine to this workshop, 6 to 8 hours on that machine. Big difference. Let's see if the proof's in the pudding when we put this Singer 1591 that was very troubled to the test in a wide variety of different sew-offs. We'll see how we have done as far as resolving the stitch output issues. Okay? All right. I already know what's going to happen, so it's kind of exciting, you know what I mean? And I will be a good boy and try to avoid playing music while we are doing this. And I didn't do much to the paint patina on Debbie's machine. That really wasn't my focus. But I did just a little bit of general cleanup on it. It's a good looking machine. More importantly, it's a good operating machine now. So let's zoom in towards the needle. And a couple of you wrote me little notes like, boy, is that as fast as your camera can zoom? No. See, we can go faster if we want to. But what's the rush? What's the big rush? All right, so let's do some sew-offs now. We're going to be focusing mainly on leather. What else do I have? I have some U.S. Army grade canvas. I have that compressed felt, and we're just gonna have some fun. Oh, I also forgot to mention. This is mounted to the front of the machine. Can you see that? And this is normally what you're going to use as a track to wind a bobbin. The one that Debbie's machine had on it was missing the spring that should be on the front of here. Actually, let me turn that around. Should be on the front of here to regulate that thread and distribute it as it's going onto the bobbin when you're winding a bobbin. Totally MIA. So I had to replace that part as well. And I don't know if that was somehow lost in the shuffle, if it was never there, but certainly if Debbie ever had to wind a bobbin, she didn't do it on this machine unless she did it by holding that thread with her fingers and moving it back and forth, because there was no spring on here. Here, I'll put them side by side, so if you're saying, I have no idea what the heck he's talking about, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. Let me zoom over there real quick. I was going to go to the needle, but hey, I'm like a 9-year-old. I get distracted. So that's what should have been on the front of Debbie's bobbin winding assembly right there. See it? It's like a spring. It is a spring. And that's what she had. It was missing. Someone had taken it off. It had broken off or something like that. All right. That's all I wanted to show you. That was boring, huh? It may be boring, but I'll tell you, it's pretty doggone important if you're wanting to wind a bobbin. If you're wanting to wind a bobbin, you better have that spring on there to regulate the flow and the distribution to some extent of how that thread is going onto your bobbin, or you're going to be a frustrated camper. All right. Let me throw that to the side. Okay, what should we start with? What should we start with? Why don't we start with I'm debating. All right, let's do some genuine cowhide. So I've got some genuine cowhide here. I've got a single layer, right? Probably about 3 ounces approximately. And I'm going to go ahead and fold it down the middle, like so. And then I'm going to go ahead and fold it one more time to get us all the way up to 3 layers. And again, forgive the green marking on there. Where I get my supply of leather, they're basically scrap remnant leathers that are not needed by the company. They mark these up when they're cutting them. Again, they use them to make real fancy seat covers and that for private jets and Lear jets and all that kind of stuff. Way out of my league. but I pick up their scraps, and I'm very grateful for the scraps because they certainly are wonderful for demonstrating the sewing output of these machines. All right, let me put my presser foot down, and before I go nuts, I'm going to grab a rag just so periodically I can wipe off the bed and try to keep it cleaned up just a little bit. Okay, so what do we have here again? We've got 3 layers of genuine cowhide. We're going to be sewing down, and we'll see how Debbie's machine is doing now as far as stitch. And also I want you to watch how this machine launches. Like I said, I did quite a bit of motor work to this machine as well. It was a combination of rewrapping some of the copper wires, and also just some real serious deep cleaning in there as well. All right, so here we go. 3 layers of genuine cowhide. I'm just really rambly today. I'm sorry about that. All right, here we go. Wow. What? Are we done already? All right, let's go down and around. And let's go towards the finish line. Here we go. I'm not going to close the box. All right, let's see how we did. Again, we just did 3 layers of genuine cowhide. We're talking probably about, I'm looking, probably around 14 ounces of leather. And any of you that have machines similar to Debbie's, like a 1591, and you're not even able to get close to that as far as being able to go through material like that. Can you see that from the side? Or from this side, maybe even easier. If you're not even able to get close to that, it's because your machine has not been optimized in this workshop. All right, let's look at the stitches. That's really what I wanted to show you. The stitches are absolutely perfect. No missed stitches. The stitch formation, the stitch alignment, the stitch formation is all absolutely spot on. I'm going to bring that up a little bit. And yes, I'm sewing with pink thread. I haven't done that in a while. I think the last time I did it may have been on Janie's machine. Janie's been way off the radar. She serves as a nurse, and I bet she is just busier than a 2-legged dog in a digging contest right now when it comes to the work that she's trying to do with this coronavirus. So God bless her. So again, we just did 3 layers of this. I'm going to zoom in on these at the end, but I can tell you one thing. That is absolutely a brag-worthy stitch output that we just did through 3 layers of genuine cowhide. Absolutely crazy. And you heard this 1591 after I optimized that motor and the foot controller as well. If you follow me on Facebook, you saw the shots of the foot controller, which was, I mean, you could have grown plants in there, quite honestly. And let's move on. Let's continue to move on through leather. I just want to keep moving on through leather. So what am I going to do next? I think I'm going to probably do some genuine elk hide. And I've got way too big of a piece. Look at this. It's huge. I don't know what I was thinking about doing, but I'm going to probably... I could do kind of one of my sewing in a circle things. I haven't done that in a while with this elk hide. I just hate to use such a huge piece to do that with. Okay. I'm going to cut it down a little bit. I can still sew in a circle just on a smaller piece, and I'll save this other one for another stitch off. Okay, So we're going to do a single layer now of this Cowhide, and really my purpose here is to show you that you can harness the power of this machine, sort of. It's got a lot of power now. And also the maneuverability of this 1591 as well is really quite outstanding. So let me lower down the presser foot. And again, don't be deceived by a single layer of Cowhide saying, oh, this is easy peasy. That Cowhide is going to be probably, I'm wiping off the machine again, is probably going to be about 4 to 5 ounces of leather. That is not an easy task. That's what a lot of people are sewing when they're making wallets and other things like that in their home-based businesses. So not an easy task at all. I'm going to put on a little bit of music. Let's see what we got here. This is called Heir to the Throne, and it's labeled cinematic, so this ought to be fun. All right, and this will be dramatic as far as us sewing in a circle. All right, here we go. I'm really going to try to slow this puppy down as best as I can. I got distracted. Ah! All right, good enough. I better stop while I'm ahead. Oh my gosh, that's the hoot. Oh my gosh, beautiful stitching. Beautiful stitching. All right, I got to check my camera shot here. It'll come out just a little bit. Did I go the right way? Nope, there we go. Okay, so this again is a single layer of genuine Cowhide. And what I wanted to demonstrate again by doing this, and again, look at it from the side as far as the thickness of that material. I've seen belts thinner than this. Yeah, that's what I meant to say. I've seen belts thinner than that. The machine, even at a real slow rate, was able to maneuver around this Cowhide with just no difficulty whatsoever and lay down a consistent stitch all the way around as we navigated the path of that with absolute consistency. The spacing, the formation, everything about that stitch is absolutely spot on and perfect. And if we look at the lock stitch, there's no difference whatsoever. The lock stitch from start to finish is absolutely spot on and perfect. The stitching, the formation, just the overall presentation of that stitch, it just doesn't get any better than that. So I'm really impressed, especially when you're talking about being able to make it through a material like this at such a slow stroke speed on the machine. I had it really harnessed down so I could really control that power, and the outcome was absolutely perfect on this single layer of Cowhide. All right, let me throw that to the back. So let's raise the ante a little bit. So what I've got now is protected full grain leather. You can look at it from the side. Nothing easy about that at all, that task. Probably talking 8 to 10 ounces of protected full grain leather. Again, protected full grain leather has a little bit of a slickery surface. So it tends to be a material that can easily manipulate that stitch output. It can cause you to have missed stitches. It can cause you to have distorted stitches. It can cause you to have other problems as far as that stitch output. So we've got 2 layers of that. We're going to start with that. And then we're going to go up to 3 layers to raise the ante even more. I'm probably going to sew kind of down and around, and then I'll add this 3rd layer right to the middle, and we'll buzz right down the middle of it, okay? So let me get this into position, and we'll see how Debbie's Singer 1591, Canadian born, does with a task like this. And again, if you've got a 1591 at home and you've got some leather remnants that are probably even thinner than what I've demonstrated so far up to this point, and your machine can't handle it, it's not a matter of the machine not being able to do it. It's a matter that it hasn't been optimized. Kind of like Debbie said in relation to the post that I put on Facebook. She said, I had hope and trusted that the machine could sew like it was supposed to sew, but after getting it back from the sewing center locally and the problem was still there, I started to wonder. And then I found Scott online and I had hope again. So if you've got a machine that seems to be hopeless when it comes to being able to replicate the things that you see me do on this channel, don't give up hope. Pack up that machine, send it to the workshop, and give me an opportunity to show you what the full potential of that machine is, whether it's a Singer 1591 or whatever that machine may in fact be. All right? Blah, 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 blah. All right, 2 layers of protected full grain leather. And I don't know that I've ever sewn protected full grain leather with pink thread before, so this ought to be fun. Here we go. All right, needle down, needle down, needle down, needle down. Oh gosh, I'm way, way over. I am too distracted. Needle down. All right, let's go to the finish line. And then we'll add that 3rd piece of protected full grain leather. Here we go. Okay, I'll close the box. Just to satisfy you box closers. All right. And now I will try to add that 3rd layer of protected full grain leather and see how our Canadian born Singer 1591 does with a task as tough as that. But first of all, I'll show you the stitches we already have. So there's our top stitches right there. You know what? Stitches just don't get any better than that. From start to finish, every single stitch, absolutely spot on. The spacing, the formation, the presentation of the stitch, it just doesn't get any better. It just doesn't get any better than that. Absolutely gorgeous stitching. Not a single skip stitch, not a single stitch that is not formed to perfection. And as we turn it over, no difference on the back. The lock stitch is exactly as it should be. So let's raise the ante now. That was, as you heard the machine operating, that was just too doggone easy peasy. I'm kind of debating here. Let me add it to the back. We'll kind of stick it in the middle. See what I'm doing? These are our lock stitches. I'm going to kind of stick it in the middle. That way we can see the stitch definition even better on the back of that material. And I'm going to run it through like this as well. And we'll see how our Canadian born Singer 1591 does with this task. Trying to get it just positioned right so I can go right down the middle, at least sort of down the middle. Okay, So now we've already got our 2 layers. We're adding this 3rd layer of protected full grain leather to the back of the original sew-off. And let's see how our Canadian-born Singer 1591 does with a task as difficult as this. All right, you ready? Here we go. If I get my foot on the foot control all the way. If I get my foot on the foot control, we might get some locomotion, huh? Oh my goodness. Yes, I have my slippers on. Of course I have my slippers on. What else would I have on? Okay, let's take a look at this. So first of all, this is the rear of the original sew-off we did. Again, 2 layers of protected full grain leather. We added this 3rd layer, and look at our stitches. Yep, absolute perfection. Spacing, the formation, everything about that stitch. Let me zoom in a little bit, because I had come out a little bit before for that real big sew-off. There's our stitches right there, folks. I'm really glad that I kind of positioned the material like that, because you can really see them pop a lot better when it's on that non-nap side. Absolute gorgeous. Absolute gorgeous. And we turn it over, and there's our sew-off coming through the other side, right down the middle. And again, no difference at all. The stitching, the formation, the presentation of those stitches, exactly as it should be. And again, what did we just sew through? 3 layers of protected full grain leather. Folks, if you've never sewn protected full grain leather, put it on your bucket list. It is one of the toughest leathers you could possibly go through. And again, if you look at it kind of from this side, it's a little bit awkward, but look at it from this side, what 3 layers of protected full grain leather looks like. Absolutely insane, and a definite pass when it comes to Debbie's 1591. Again, not only perfect stitches, but no misstitches, no misaligned stitches, just absolute perfection. And I don't know why the folks at the service place in Pennsylvania didn't accomplish what I did, but it's done now. It's done now. So what do we have left? Should we do some compressed felt, or are we like terrified of this stuff now after it broke a needle on that last machine? I'm not terrified of it at all. So let's go ahead and do compressed felt now. And I'm going to go ahead and, what did I do the last time? 3 layers? I've got such a huge piece here. Let me cut this down a little bit. Kind of cut it right down the middle. Hopefully I didn't cut it too short. No, I think we can still do it. So we're going to fold it like this. We'll get ourselves up to, practicing my folding skills here, get us up to 3 layers of this compressed felt. You can see it right there. And this again is the thickness of the material we sewed the last time when it broke that needle on that machine. So I have a new needle in this machine, so I think we should be good to go, but hey, you never know. This is tough stuff. This is very, very tough stuff. So I'm going to get this into position. We'll get our take-up arm all the way up, and we will see how this 1591 does with a task as difficult, potentially, as this. Here we go. I had to gun it just a little bit, you know what I mean? I had to gun it just a little bit and have a little bit of fun. And that is just a fraction of the power now that this 1591 has. Just a fraction. I don't know that I can really demonstrate the power output of this motor in this Premiere. I almost feel like I want to buzz down it one more time and really blast it. What do you think? Should we? Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. All right. So we're going to go down just one more time just for fun. I'm going to give it a little bit more gas. I'm certainly not going to open it up fully because I will be like at the end of the material in a microsecond. And we will see how this 1591 does on its second run on 3 layers of compressed felt. All right? I'm going to kind of try to keep it straight too. All right, here we go. No difference. No difference. A little bit more speed. A little bit more speed coming down there. So let's see how, and again, compressed felt, because it does have a weave to it, is going to try to manipulate that stitch. It's going to mess around with the needle as it's going through the material and as it's pulling that thread back through. And we'll see if it won, or we'll see if Debbie's machine won. I think we already know the answer to that, don't we? So there we go. Absolute gorgeous stitching from start to finish. The spacing, the formation, the integrity of the stitch. Absolute perfection from beginning to end, going through both runs on these 3 layers of compressed felt. Again, look at from the edge. No easy task. I'll kind of flip it that way as well. You can actually see it better. 3 layers of compressed felt, folks, is not an easy task. As you saw when we sewed it on that other machine and it snapped that needle, this stuff is the thick of thick. And yet as we turn it around and look at that lock stitch, there's just no difference. The spacing, the formation, the integrity of the stitch is exactly as we want to see it. Everything about the stitch is just spot on. Everything about the stitch is spot on. So a definite pass for these 3 layers of compressed felt. Both runs we did. Absolute perfection. We only have a couple more sew-offs left, folks. I'm going to take a quick little water break and let's throw on some music as I do that. Well, I hope you folks are still doing well. I know there's still a lot of craziness with this coronavirus, and hopefully you had a good Easter weekend. Had a chance to enjoy some special reflection and time. That's the good stuff. That's the good stuff, isn't it? All right. Almost feels like a waltz, doesn't it? Kind of feels like a waltz to me. All right, let's do some Italian leather. And if you don't remember from seeing it on other sew-offs recently, this is Italian leather. This stuff is, I would rank it up there with protected full grain leather as far as difficulty in getting through it. Not easy whatsoever, and as you kind of look at the nap of the material, you can see as well it's just got that, it's got that message to the needle of saying, good luck, buddy, good luck. But we're going to go ahead and see if we can get through. Let's see, what have we done so far? Let me kind of sum things up. So we did 3 layers of genuine cowhide. That was this one right here. And then we did our sew around in a circle with the elk hide. And then we did our 3 layers of protected full grain leather. We started with 2 and then added that 3rd one to it. Remember that? And then we did our 3 layers of compressed felt. So we're down to U.S. Army grade canvas, and we're down to this Italian leather. I'm kind of deciding how I want to fold this Italian leather and whether I want to do 2 layers or 3. I think I'm going to do 2 layers, and then we can have a longer run with the machine from start to finish. So let me get this into position, and I think we'll go down and around. All right, presser foot is down, take-up arm is up, and let's see if we can buzz down. We'll make our turn. Hopefully I don't run out of space, and then we'll race down to the finish line. And then we have U.S. Army grade canvas, and that is it. We have run through, as I'll show you at the end when we zoom in on them, we've run through a wide range of different materials to really put this Canadian-made Singer 1591 that Debbie brought to the workshop to the test to see if what was plaguing it with those skip stitches and stitch quality has been resolved unequivocally. All right, here we go. And listen to this machine run. It's just a delight. Just a delight. Just have to kind of steer this thing better. I kind of went off course. Yeah, I'm way off course. Look at me. I'm on the single layer. All right, let's get back on course. Let's try to. It's like going off the road when you're driving, and now you're trying to get back off of the shoulder onto the road. Let's see how we do. Oh yeah, we did it. Did you have any doubt? You didn't have any doubt, did you? All right. So we just did 2 layers of Italian leather. The machine sews it basically like it's a light cotton. And again, it couldn't have done that when it first came to the workshop. The motor really needed a lot of attention. Like I said, major wiring issues. It just needed a lot of TLC. And now what do we have? We've got a machine that no matter what we put in front of it, including this Italian leather, it sews through it just like a walk in the park. I'm going to kind of angle it a little bit so you can see it better. Start to finish. There's one. See where my thumb is? That's where I kind of went onto the single layer. That's okay. We got it back on the road. Absolutely gorgeous stitching. And we'll come off the tripod and look at these real close when we wrap this up, which will be shortly. And as we turn it over, there's our lock stitch. There's no difference. That lock stitch is absolute perfection as well. The spacing, the formation, the integrity of the stitch, exactly as it should be. No skip stitches, no stitch distortion. Isn't victory sweet? Isn't victory sweet? So these 2 layers of Italian leather, an absolute success and pass. There's nothing I think that we can challenge this Canadian-made Singer 1591 that belongs to Debbie. There's just nothing we're going to be able to do to challenge it. I just don't see it happening. So what do I have here? I've got a real weird layer of cutting that I did with this U.S. Army grade canvas. We basically have on the center point of this, we've got 2 layers. So if I fold it, we're up to 4. See how if I fold this here. Yeah, that would be 4. It's going to be heavier on the outside of here because of the seam. So I've got 4, then 6, then 8. Let's see if I can fold that one more time. I'm going to fold a little bit shorter so I can get a full even run. So there's 4. This is tougher than you think when you're on camera, folks. Oh boy, let's try this again. There's 4. 4 so far. Look at the thickness of that. That's crazy. There's 6. Okay, that's going to be close enough. And that's actually, look at it from the side. Are you serious? What? That's like 12 layers, folks, on the side. We're not going to be sewing on the side, but I'm just showing the thickness of this. But we've got at least 8 to 10 layers of this U.S. Army grade canvas. Look at it from this side. I hope I didn't bite off more than I could chew. This is like insane. And if I break a needle on this, I would not be shocked because this is crazy, crazy, crazy thick. And hopefully I can even get it underneath the presser foot. If I can't, then I'm going to have to modify my goals, as I've said before. Oh my Lord, this is insane. This is insane. But you know what? A little bit of insanity on this channel kind of makes it fun, doesn't it? My presser foot screw is almost touching the material. It's so thick. Okay, so let's see what we get here. Let's see what we get, and don't throw a fit. I've got about 10 layers of U.S. Army grade canvas. If you look on the outside, about 12 layers. And we're going to try to buzz down it, turn, and then come back to the finish line. This is going to be interesting, to say the least. Keep your fingers crossed. All right, here we go. My goodness. My goodness gravy. This machine just doesn't know what its limitations are. It doesn't have any limitations. Did you see that? 10 layers of U.S. Army grade canvas, easily. And it just went. All right, let's finish our turn. Let's head to the finish line. And I'm almost on the edge, so I just went from about 10 layers to close to 12 layers of U.S. Army grade canvas. Keep your fingers crossed. Keep your fingers crossed, folks. Here we go. Come on, Scott. All right, because you kind of let your foot slide off of that foot control a little bit. Now I'm not even going to. I'm not just going to close the box. I'm also going to buzz back down the middle again. You just made me do it. I'm trying to think. Oh, I can do that diagonally. Yeah, that'll work. All right, so we're going to go from this corner to the other corner. That'll be our final race with Debbie's Singer 1591 Canadian born. Here we go. And I'll give it a little bit more throttle, just a little bit more throttle. All right, here we go. All right, I'll go back the other way too. I have no idea what I just made, but it's kind of cool looking. It's kind of cool looking. All right, let's take a look at these stitches. Our final sew-off again, our final confirmation sew-off for Debbie's Singer 1591, Canadian born, that came to the workshop very troubled. And I always like to believe the best about people, but I almost wonder if there was a little bit of sabotage that someone did in modifying those parts in the upper tension. It's just real bizarre. Real bizarre. I've never seen one modified like that. So look at it again from the side of what we just went through, folks. I'm not making that up. How could I? You just saw it live on this premiere. Probably on the side, I said 12 layers, probably more like 14 layers of U.S. Army grade canvas. Insane. Absolute insanity. I totally lost track of where I am. Okay, let's just consider this the top stitch. Why don't we? The stitch formation, the stitch spacing, the stitch integrity. There's just nothing different about any of those stitches. They're all absolute perfection. Absolute perfection. And not only did we go down and around, but then we kind of went almost creating a little V going through the middle of the material as well. Easily 10 layers of U.S. Army grade canvas. As we turn it over, look at that. I mean, that looks like a Chicago phone book, doesn't it? And there's our lock stitch. No difference whatsoever. Here, let me flip it like this so you can see it from that angle. The spacing, the formation, the integrity of the stitch. To absolute perfection. It just doesn't get any better than that, folks. Those stitches are absolutely spot on in every respect. And again, we're talking between 10 to 14 layers of U.S. Army grade canvas. So this is absolutely a success. Absolutely a success. We took a machine that was troubled, had already been serviced professionally, was still having troubles, and she is not having any troubles any longer. So I'm going to get this machine packed up as soon as I'm able. I've got a number of other machines that have to be packed up as well, and get them heading towards their families that are anxiously awaiting them. And a number of these folks are on missions, as I know a number of you are as well, where you're helping the cause by making masks and other personal protective gear to keep folks safe. And I really am working as tirelessly as I can to try to keep machines on track and get them out the door. But I won't compromise my standards. And I know you don't want me to do that. Otherwise, what's the point, right? What's the point? So let me lay these sew-offs out, and we will see if we can get close and personal on them and give you an opportunity just to see how spectacular Debbie's Canadian-made Singer 1591 is sewing now. Kind of deciding my plan of attack here as far as laying them out. I've got to do that U.S. Army grade canvas sideways so you can kind of see it. What a hoot! What a hoot! All right, protected full grain leather. We'll put our elk hide kind of in the front, and we'll put our genuine cowhide. I'll put that side up because it's a little bit easier to see it with the markings that the folks put on it. So we, just again to sum it up, and we're going to go around and look at these real close as well. We did 2 layers of Italian leather, no problem. 3 layers of compressed felt, no problem. 12 to 14 layers of U.S. Army grade canvas, no problem. 3 layers of protected full grain leather, no problem. 3 layers of genuine cowhide, no problem. Buzzed around and really showed the ability to navigate and harness the power on this Canadian-made Singer 1591 and a single layer of genuine elk hide. Absolutely no problem whatsoever. So I am totally impressed with how this machine is performing now. And I know that Debbie is going to have an absolute blast and will be so relieved to get this machine to where she's at out in Pennsylvania, because she is, as I shared, is battling a plastic machine right now that is just really starting to grind and make all kinds of awful noises. I guess none of us are surprised by that, right? Okay, so let me do this. I'm going to put on a little bit of music, and then we will buzz around. Let's see what I have to put on here. Yeah, let's put on a little bit of country. Dropping things. Oops. All right, let's get close and personal and take a look at these stitches. Yeah, it really is a pretty machine. And again, I didn't do much to the paint at all. I wiped it off a little bit, and yeah. The other thing I'll point out real quick, and just as we're looking at the machine itself, is I did a rough caliper measurement, and on the Canadian 1591s, they appear to be about 2 millimeters wider at the top of the arm right here. And that may have just been a shoddy measurement on my part, but they are just appear to be a little bit wider across the top. Maybe that's because they had so much writing to put on there. But they are a super duper machine, and again, bouncing between Canada and Kilbowie, Scotland, you got the best of all worlds working together there. All right, let's get down and look at these stitches. So this is our 2 layers of Italian leather. Absolute perfection. That's a fun little tune, isn't it? This one's a little bit hard to see. I'm going to see if I can pick it up a little bit and see if that makes it easier for us. Maybe from the side. Yeah, that's going to be a booger to see. Yeah, let's see, maybe like that. Yeah, both of those rows we did are just absolutely spot on. Hopefully you can see that in the camera. That pink on that white's a little bit tough to see. But those are some gorgeous, gorgeous stitches on that Italian leather. Then we've got our U.S. Army grade canvas where we just had a lot of fun. We just kind of buzzed all over the place and laid down stitching to absolute perfection through what is really appears to be an insurmountable task. When you I'm going to kind of sit back here a little bit and let you look at the side again of what we went through. And not only did we go through it, but the machine did it with such ease. It's just absolutely ridiculous how easily it got the job done. It really did. And then we did our compressed felt, our 3 layers of that. Here we are. And again, it laid down a stitch that is absolutely brag-worthy. Both of those rows, it just didn't miss a beat. And there are no skip stitches on any of these sew-offs. And we did a wide spectrum of different sewing materials to really put this to the test. And this one, remember, we started with 2 layers of protective full grain leather, and then we decided to step it up and add that 3rd layer. No difference. Absolute perfection. And you've already seen the lock stitch on all of these stitches. Stitch offs, I should say. Absolute perfection. Spacing, formation, alignment, presentation. 3 layers of protective full grain leather, folks. Not easy at all. And then we have our genuine cowhide. And those are stitches that are absolutely brag-worthy. Going down both sides as we kind of came down and around. Absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous stitching. And again, 3 layers of genuine cowhide. That in and of itself is a task that would cause some folks to, some machines and some folks to run to the hills and hide. You kind of see it there. The thickness of that. Thickness of all of these. Just insane. And then just to test the maneuverability of this machine a little bit and to show that you can harness back that potted powerhouse now that's on the rear of this machine that I did a lot of work on. We just buzzed around a little bit, kind of like a kid, just sewing in a circle, just having a little bit of fun and laying down stitches that are absolutely to perfection. Even as we were manipulating that material and forcing that machine to make some tight corners, it did not miss a beat, did not compromise stitch quality, stitch formation, stitch presentation whatsoever. It just got the job done in an incredible way. Incredible way. So I'm absolutely delighted that we were able to take this Canadian-made Singer 1591 and get it back to where it needed to be. Again, it's a shame that Debbie had to go through the extra steps of taking it locally and being disappointed by that, and then the added expense of driving all the way to Wisconsin. But I'm really glad she made the investment, and I know she's going to feel real good about that investment as she gets this machine, and then the other 4 machines are finished up as well. And she, she already sees it, she already knows, she already understands, as most of you do. You get what you pay for. And when you make that extra investment of sending a machine to the workshop, bringing a machine to the workshop, as a number of you have done, even just recently, I just got 2 more machines from Tony out east. That's the 3rd machine that he's brought to me by way of shipping it. It makes me feel so good because I know you really understand then the difference that you're getting and that your investment is a wise investment. And here you can see a machine that was struggling in so many ways and what it does now. And then you probably hate me a little bit if you've got a 1591 and you're going, no way. There's no way I could get anywhere close to that. I can't even do that. That would kill my machine. That, don't even want to talk about it. That, are we back there again? Get away from that. 3 layers of genuine cowhide, and even some 1591s, believe it or not, they would struggle with a task like this of about 4 ounces of genuine elk hide. Because there's nothing easy peasy about that. Look at that. And yet you saw how easily this 1591 that belongs to Debbie got the job done. It really changes the way you look at a machine. If you've been dealing with a machine for years and it can only sew at a certain level, that becomes your normal. That becomes, okay, that's the acceptable. All machines must, be able to hit those same benchmarks, and they plateau at that level of sewing. And then you see a machine like this and you're like, daggone it, I've got a machine that is way, way, way underperforming. Don't struggle with that anymore. Save up your money. Do whatever you need to do. Get the machine here and let me give you a breath of fresh air as far as what your machine can do. Is that fair enough? All right. Yes, I could ramble all day long, and I appreciate your patience. God bless you guys. Hang in there. Keep the faith. And keep on sewing. Okay? Oh, I almost forgot to mention. Don't let me cut it yet. Don't let me cut it yet. I was going to ask you to remind me, and I forgot to ask you to remind me, and so I almost forgot. Real quick, I'm going to take you around the threading of this machine, real quick, and then I'll also talk to you about needle alignment and such, okay? So on this 1591, we are going to come across the top, right over to here. Let me kind of zoom in on it a little bit. We'll come right over to here, right over the top of here. Hold on a second. There we go. I actually bumped my thread and my thread fell off, so that doesn't help very much, does it? So it goes over the top of there, kind of comes down through the tension discs. You can kind of see that. Where are they? Comes through the tension disc, comes around, and then you pull that spring up so that that thread is going to come over that little guide right there where my finger's pointing. See where it's right in the middle of those two, like a goalpost. And then from there, you're going to come up through the take-up arm. Once I get my finger over there, come up through the take-up arm. You're going to come down through here, through this thread guide that's on the faceplate. There's another thread guide. Where is it? Right there. See here? And then you can see this. Normally you're going to be threading machines from left to right, right? Not in this one. Come on, camera. Not in this one. You're going to be threading it from right to left. And any of you want to guess as to the flat side of the needle? I'll give you a second to type it in the chat. If you do, I'll send you something special. I don't see anybody typing. All right, so I'm just going to tell you the answer. The flat side of the needle is going to go to the left. Make sure the flat side of the needle on your 1591 is to the left. And then again, you're going to be threading it from right to left. So a couple little nuances on this machine. Also, I will tell you that as you're putting that bobbin into the bobbin case, make sure that that thread is coming over the top of the bobbin as you insert it. It's coming over the top. And that means as you were holding that bobbin between your fingers and you're kind of pulling it, that bobbin is going to be turning counterclockwise. Okay? All right, that's about it. That's all we have time for. God bless you guys, and stay tuned for other great videos like this where we take a machine that seems hopeless even after so-called professionals have looked at it, and we bring it back to perfection. All right, take care.